Hey there everyone, Mazarok here, and today we are going to do So You Want to Tank Sanguine Depths. The goal of these videos is to get you to go from 0 to 15s. I'm going to show you all of the strats that I possibly can, and just kind of go through my general walkthrough and, talk about how we do the dungeon. So today, we're obviously in a Sanguine Depths. I pugged this key. It went really, really well. So I have no real complaints with how things went here, and everything kind of happened as I wanted to be able to show you. So on the first pull here, what's very, very common is you pull the first three and then you go up and you pull these guys down like I do here, and you open this little lantern that is right here, not where the circle is, but where that is. And what that does is as the enemies die, you will gain a stacking buff, more damage, more healing. Very, very good. Now, the one mob to worry about in this pack and throughout the rest of the dungeon whenever you do get them is the Hunt Master. Now, the Hunt Master himself, not that bad. But what he does is he does drop these traps on the ground that if you go in them, they deal big damage. In lower keys, it's not bad, but in higher keys, they can really, really go. So positioning here is really what you want to worry about. And as we saw there, we saw the Noble Skirmisher. They do a cast called Animate Weapon. That's something that if you can try and CC, you can't kick it, but you do want to try and stop it. Now, here you see this trap that one of the Hunt Masters did, so I'm trying to pop them as best as I can. I did to save, because what's happening here is this Mistdancer does an Echoing Thrust, and that Echoing Thrust is like a red line of a thrust sword that you can stack all in the same spot. So what I try and do is I try and pick a very specific spot. So that way I always kind of move to the side, let them do it, go back. So that way they're always stacked in the same spot. Because if you don't position yourself correctly for those, what's going to happen is they're going to be all over the place. And it's going to, especially your melee DPS, can just get one clocked by them. So you really, really want to watch out for those. And positioning is there. So as you saw over there, I like to stay in that one little corner and just constantly move in and out. I had to move out of it because there was just some traps that ended up being on me a lot, but that's not always going to happen. Insatiable Brute is just basically is what it is. They hit hard, but there's no real mechanic to them. For tanks anyway, they're going to jump towards a range, but that's not bad. The Gluttonous Ticks, what you want to do there is just kick the Engorged. The longer that Engorge cast goes off, the bigger they get and the harder they hit. And when we get to the further packs, what's going to happen is a lot of them will go off. So you want to kind of rotate your group CCs for that. We'll see that as we go along. Aside from that, Incinerator Arcoleth, very, very basic. Kick the Inferno cast. Quaking in these dungeons in Sanguine Depths is always fun because you have very, very little room to move, but that is what it is. Now, the power that I always take from Incinerator Arcoleth is the 5% versatility and the 40% DR for the first 3 seconds upon entering combat. The 40% DR as a DK is absolutely wonderful, but the 5% versatility is just too good to pass up on. The other options just aren't that great. I think one of them is Champion's Brand, which as a tank, you're not usually going to be, like, you being full health is a rarity. As a DK, it's even further away from being common. And the Fifth Skull, as good as that is in 5 target scenarios, it doesn't proc unless there are at least 5 targets. So there's just too many instances where it's not useful versus having that extra 5% versatility, especially with how difficult versatility can be to get right now, to get that stacked up to where you want it to be. Because as you see here with the 5%, I'm only at 15% because I've been having a lot of trouble gaining versatility gear on my Death Knight, because I think what happened was in the Prot Warriors in BFA, they definitely, and the versatility stacking that went on there with the corruption and things like that, I think they kind of learned their lesson and they're trying to, like, slow down how much versatility tanks get. So here you see all these Gluttonous Ticks, these Engorge cast. They get bigger and bigger the more they engorge. You want to try and kick it. Our group did very, very well. We just kind of started running out of CC towards the end of it, but with a pug group and very little communication within pugs, you get what you get sometimes. Sometimes you overlap a lot. That happens. This next pack here, I've always found to be very fun. Lots of ticks, lots of an Insatiable Brute, something you can really beat on and blow some cooldowns and have some fun with. But overall, not too bad at all. Again, same thing, the ticks, kick. You move on and you go that way as well. Now, Crisis the Voracious. Excuse me. He does his Vicious Headbutt. It's a knockback, deals some damage. It's all around not too bad. You want to kick this Hungering Drain as fast as possible. And Juggernaut Rush. So what he does is he will target a DPS player, and he's going to rush towards them. Everybody in the way is able to soak up some of that mechanic. So if you have DPS like a mage who can ice block it, you don't need to get in front. But if someone has to take it full force, you want as many as the players in the way as possible, because it will deal reduced damage the more people it hits. And then Severing Smash. As a tank, this is one where you kind of want to go away, and then you do not want to let those balls get to the boss. They're going to come in. Each time one gets popped, it does AoE damage. So it's not personal damage, but it's AoE damage to the entire group. So you want to try and get your group to try and stagger them out for your healer, because all at once can hurt. If you are a Death Knight or a Warrior, Rallying Cry, AMZ, really, really good for those scenarios. And aside from that, that's basically rinse and repeat fight. As you get in higher keys, he just starts hitting really, really hard. The Severing Smash. Ball explosions are really, really tough. For this one here, I used AMS to mitigate some damage and to have the healer not worry about me as much. Although the healer doesn't have to worry about me as much at all. As you can see, I am running with a Mistweaver, and I'm, 1.5k HPS ahead of him throughout most of this, and we all know the Mistweaver, output is rather grand. So he doesn't have to babysit me much at all, which is very, very nice, and that's going to be your goal as a tank. Now, I pull this a little bit funny here. So what I do is I pull this room going in, but I'm actually going to backtrack in the end. It's just those two that come out, they could like to come into the actual room, so it's just easier to group all of these up together. If you kind of just rush in, I pop my cooldowns. Now, the Wicked Oppressors right here. The cast that you want to kick and watch out for is the Curse of Suppression. Racking Soul hurts, but the Curse of Suppression is really the one that you want to get kicked, because that's going to silence all of your casters, aka your healer, for about 5 seconds. And if that happens in higher keys, it can definitely end in bad scenarios. So I would personally hard CC the Wicked Oppressors where I can, casting the Rack Soul, and then use my kick for the Curse of Suppression. Then I come here for count. There's a couple of different ways to run this dungeon, depending on what you want to do. If you want to skip later on, with pug groups, I opt not to skip unless literally the pug group is asking for the skip, just because it doesn't always end that well. So what I do here is I pull these guys in for count. They're pretty easy. They don't hurt too bad. There's just enough of them, and they give a decent amount of count for what you need. And then I go through and pull in the Chamber Sentinel. The Chamber Sentinel does a bleed that can really hurt the tank, so that you really, really want to watch out for. It's called Severing Slice, and he does the fractured whatever. We're gonna see it here. I can't remember the exact name of it right now. Craggy Fracture, that's what it is. Where the DPS players, not the tank, the DPS players will get a little circle around them. They have to move out of it. If a DPS player is stacked on you, you have to move out of it too. And Stone Skin is what you want to kick. Now here I was kind of a bad tank and forgot that I had a mage for a little bit, and I was kicking the Stone Skin because a good mage is going to want to spell steal that Stone Skin and have a lot of reduced physical damage buff for them. Here, Aurora's Cold Heart. Stay out of the Frost Lance. As we get further and further into this, I'm going to stop repeating what the lieutenants do every time. Nice thing as a DK is I'm very, very, very good at self-sustain. We did lose a couple members here, but it's not too bad at all. And on this one, I like to get the one where deals 10% increased damage to targets that you kick. If it's much later in the dungeon and there's going to be no kickable targets, I'll get the movement speed one, but that's really about it. Now, here we have two Wicked Oppressors and Grand Overseers. These packs can be a little bit tricky. You want to kick the Gloom Burst whenever you can, But like we talked about before with the Wicked Oppressors, you do have 2 of them. The Curse of Suppression needs to get kicked. Now the Grand Overseer here casts Dread Bindings. As you see here, I cast AMS before it went off. It did not affect me. Bear Druids can shapeshift to get out of it once it's cast. Paladins can freedom. And, you know, generally movement abilities and stuff like that, so you don't have to get out of the way. Aside from that, if you do not have a movement-based ability to get out of it, you have to run away, break the chain, and then you can go back and tank. This is same exact pack as before, except here I'm going to move it into the Lantern, which is already pre-opened. I was kind of hoping he would open it a little bit later since we are on a fort week. I would have been hoping that he opened it more around the 50% marker, because I am going to pull the room to the side. I do believe I said that ahead of time. I communicated that. So see here, you see me breaking the chain, moving out of the way. They are casters, so they're mostly going to stay in the same place, which is very, very nice. So you don't have to worry about your positioning too much. They're going to stay in cast and still stay mostly grouped up. Now for count, I come in and I pull this room here. I already lost the Lantern. I didn't need to pull them out, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to LOS them anyway, because at the time I didn't realize that he had popped the Lantern. Some things you really only notice afterwards. So what you want to do is you want to LOS them here. Unfortunately, the Mistweaver tank did not, Mistweaver healer did not really help me out. So I used Gorfien's Grafts, put them all together. Same thing, you want to kick the Curse of Suppressions whenever you can. Stun them out of it, whatever, anything like that. Fairly easy pull, fairly standard. The Rack Souls can start to hurt, so you want to kind of rotate group CCs. Shadow Fury, Shockwaves, Gorfien's Grasp, if you didn't use it for just general positioning for the pull, and things like that. And then coming up next, we do have another Wicked Oppressor and excuse me, and Grand Overseer pack. Here you want to watch out, because what happens is you see that there is the Grubber up there that we just missed. Well, if you hit him with any AoE ability, he's going to pull that entire room minus the Lieutenant. So, Earth Ellies and things like that, you can really pull it, you can get out of hand really, really quickly. Now, for this next pack coming up, the grubby Dirt Grubbers, yeah, Dirt Crunchers. So what I do here is all I do is I hit one, and the entire room here is going to pull in, save for the Lieutenant, sorry. I'm having a little bit of issues with my throat this morning, I'm a little clogged up. So what's going to happen here is these grubby Dirt Crunchers are occasionally going to get enraged. They're going to get really, really big. Unfortunately, we do not have a Soothe in this dungeon. But once they get like this, nice, big, and red, if you Soothe them, they will instantly die. So having someone, a rogue, a hunter, a druid, use their Soothe on those is going to make this pull go a lot smoother for you. If you're a bear druid, you can take care of it yourself, because these guys do hurt quite a bit. You see that I am taking a decent amount of damage. I'm at 11.k here, damage taken, but healer's doing a good job. I'm sitting at 8k HPS, and I'm not really feeling in trouble at all. But if we had a Soothe, these would go a lot better. They would just instantly die, and then life is good. One thing to note with these grubby Dirt Crunchers is they will run away. As you see, this one here started running away. If you do not interact with it while it is running away, it will not pull anything. So if it goes across the bridge and it goes to the next Chamber Sentinel, as long as you don't interact with it, it will not pull the Sentinel. But if you're attacking it currently and there's attacks being berated at it from the DPS or anything, it will pull the Sentinel. So, and the same goes for Plaguefall when we get to there. Now, Executioner Varuth, this is the one I really, really hate as a DK, because my mitigation is healing, and that is reduced by 50%. And that just sucks. So I will pop cooldowns on here. As you see, I popped my Dancing Rune weapon. Unfortunately, Swarming Mist isn't that great in single target, so I didn't want to commit it here, knowing what's coming up next. But I will use, if I'm feeling in danger, I'll use Vamp Blood, or I spend Fortitude, or whatever I need to get this done. But this was a good run. We had good DPS here. Things went down nice and quick. Now, as a default on tank, I will take the Stygian King's Barbs. So, melee combat, 2% of the damage back. And I know it sounds like 2%, not much, but guess what? It actually very much adds up. Now, for this pull here, the Depth Warden. This is the one that you want to worry about. He has a kickable cast called Barbed Shackles. This one here, you want to have your group rotate kicks on it, and it must get kicked. Now, if you do have a Paladin in the group, he can bop whoever gets that Barbed Shackles cast on him, because if it doesn't get kicked, it's basically a death sentence, or it means your healer's mana is going to go to 0 as they just massively spot heal. To massively spot heal to get that, to keep him up. Now, we had a very, very good Mistweaver here who just, I think he popped something that wasn't too mana intensive, but the Barbed Shackles cast, especially once you start getting up to higher keys, will just crush you. So here we have the Remnant of Fury. It's got an explosive cast that you want to kick. The Research Scribes are literally the most annoying because they don't have any kickable cast, and they are constantly going to be using ranged abilities. So you have to treat them like archer mobs, where you can move them, but they're very, very difficult, and you have to try and move them slowly. There, I just tanked it where it was because I had taken a peek ahead, and we were safe from the pat that was coming because I wanted this pat. Now, in this hallway as well, you're going to notice this statue here. There are several of those along the lines. Now, what happens with those is they actually one of them will become a Chamber Sentinel. It is always just a question of which one. So sometimes you'll get them a little bit late, sometimes you'll get them a little bit early, but you do want to watch out. And here I pulled because we do have that urn going, so I want to try and get as many things into the urn as possible to try and get as much of that buff as possible for the upcoming packs and go into the boss. It does make everything quicker. It does really, really amp up your damage, so pulling around the urns is very good. Now, as you saw here when we entered, I went directly to the left. This is my route for pugs, but when I do a skip route with my group, we go to the right because there is another urn there. So we'll pull, we'll get the urn, we'll come around, and we'll just basically have an urn buff for this entire hallway coming into the boss, which works very, very nicely. So here you saw me going over, boom, Chamber Sentinel. Always something to watch out. It is random. There's no way to predict. Sometimes in a week, I've noticed in a week I get about 75%. It's always in the same spot, but the other 25% are random. That's kind of my own little numbers and, envelope, back of the envelope math. So Chamber Sentinel, we already went over him. Not a problem. We'll kill him quickly and move forward. I noticed that the kicks in this group weren't always the best, so I didn't want to mix him in with the Depth Warden. So in that way I could just really focus them down and it go on. And again, someone let that Barbed Shackle cast get off. You really, really want to avoid that getting off. As you can see, like, the DH is just just going down, and he's being spot healed like crazy. You really don't want that to happen. Now, I do usually pull this hallway a little bit bigger with my groups as well, because I know what my groups can handle. With pug groups, I really don't know, and as I saw that the kicks weren't entirely too great with this group, although the damage was fantastic, we really, really did well. We're in a good position. I opted to go a little bit more conservative. Now for Tarvald, this guy can be pretty nasty if you don't know what to do. He does this Castigate cast on a DPS or a healer, which they need to remove themselves from the group, and he will spawn a little ad. You want to burst down that ad. That ad can really, really hurt, so the ad becomes priority focus. Now, as this is happening around the room, you saw that there are two swirls moving around. You do not want to get hit with those swirls. They put a magic dot on you that really, really hurt. You just really don't want you just really don't want to be in those, around those. So that's where the stay inside, You saw it go around the outside. We move over. This is tank. This is a fight of tank positioning, and you really have to kind of lead that charge where you have to go inside, outside, inside, outside, and then you wait to see when it passes, and then you keep going from there. Aside from that, it's a pretty straightforward fight. There's just a lot of damage. The Castigate Curse can be feigned off by hunters, I think, but it really does hurt. So here, I know I have my count going down. We won't have to come back up. I think it's like 68.5, 69% is really the count if you're going to do a no skip. That's where you want. Now here, where the Wicked Oppressor was, I decided to pull into Sanguine and just do everything here. Whether I go left or right in my route truly depends on where this Wicked Oppressor is casting. So if he's more towards the other side, I'll go in and do those as a 3-pack. If he's more there, I'll just go them in and just kind of let them do a little bit more. Burst the 1-minute cooldowns. So here you saw us shooting the Curse of Suppression. I kicked it off. Sanguine, he's going to pull you in. He's going to root you, break the root, move out of the way. If you are a DK, you can just stand in there. You saw me do it. I popped Icebound Fortitude. You can only do this once. And then I move out of the way from that point on. God, I wish Mistweaver Cocoon was better. Aside from that, Sanguine's very, very easy there. So, most of the time, you're going to be taking the Stone Ward. The 20% absorb is what you're really, really going to want. Now, on my DK, I opt for the Leech because I am very much about healing myself and having, when you pop Lichborn, I have like 25-30% base leech with that power once I get to low health, and it really adds up on the healing. And for me, at that point, it gives me more, I get more value out of it. For example, on my warrior as well, the Stone Ward is still very good. The problem is it's random when it comes up. So what I actually have 12.9% base leech on my warrior as well. That puts it up to 17.9% baseline at full health, which goes up to like 33% when I'm low health. So that's very, very good. But if you do not have a high leech stat, or you don't really work around self-healing very often, it's not as useful. Take the Stone Ward. Grand Proctor. Now this is just a fight of fights. She does 2 main casts, 2 main abilities that really, really hurt. One hurts the tank, one hurts the group. So there you saw the right go off. There are golden orbs. You don't need many as a tank. You can alter your defenses to kind of work around it. Anti-magic shell is really, really good. Here I'm going to immediately get up my Mistweaver who dropped, but you really just need like maybe 1 or 2 orbs. As you get in higher keys, you might need more. But altering, so what I do here is I try to alter my anti-magic shell and my blood splatter scale for those. Now, I do try for the Iron Spike cast that goes off, which is the tank buster. I also alter my anti-magic zone for that as well, is to try and have full runic power for when she does the Iron Spike, because I do not have the active mitigation to stop it. So here she's about to cast it. You see me trying to get that. So as I drop in health, I'm mitigating it by casting Death Strike and having the runic power built up to be able to just heal through it. I kind of wish sometimes it would be a much like heavier hit, but it's a lot of small sequential hits. So here I'll have my anti-magic shell. Boom, done. If you're a warrior, you can spell reflect every single one. You take almost no damage by taking 1 orb and spell reflect, and then that way you can save your main defensives for for the Iron Spikes. But shield block does that. Warriors do really, really good on this fight actually. But that's the way you kind of got to work around it. Easy peasy. We had a quick death, but a quick brez. Save the key. I've got my puppy just kind of, I say my puppy's 6 years old. Just kind of begging me here. I think he wants to go play. It's pretty nice outside, so I'll probably go do that a little bit later. So this pack here has Wicked Oppressors and the Hunt Masters, so they're going to be laying down traps. There's currently 1 at my feet. I knew I could pop it. I was pretty much fine, but I am saving my 2 main abilities, Swarming Mist and Bone Storm, for the upcoming pack, because that is the pack that you normally skip. pack coming up. So here I stun the Wicked Oppressor out of the Curse of Suppression. And then I use my Death Grip to cancel out her cast again. And then I finally had my kick to kick it. Nice thing with DK is you can do a lot of that fun stuff. This pack's generally not too bad. Just need to, you know, worry about positioning of the traps and things like that as you go along and you move forward. Now this one here has a Mist Dancer, an Overseer, and a Chamber Sentinel. This is unarguably one of the toughest packs in the game, but tank positioning and being smart with your abilities is really the name of the game here. So here I always prefer the Mist Dancer, getting hard targeted first, and I am simply positioning myself in the same spot every single time. I'm going to AMS this Dread Bindings, so that way you see all of the Echoing Thrusts are going over there, and the melee DPS can stay in the back of the mob and just DPS them down. They're always in the same spot, and then that way we know they're safe. Plain and simple. It's really, this pull goes way better with tank positioning than anything else. And they killed the Grand Overseer at the same time. Now this is a bolstering week, so the Chamber Sentinel can start to truck after a little while, but we did a good job handling it. And then up next we have the Gauntlet. So with this first pull, there's two ways to do it, depending on how your group's doing and all of that fun stuff like that. You can do this singular pull here. AoE burst down, everything kind of going on, with General Call doing her thing. And then once everything's dead here, move forward while General Call is still being DPS and get them down. But if you trust your DPS and all of your DPS have really big cooldowns, and you're not worried about a pug group or something like that. So here I start moving, they're all dead. Pull the next one as we go forward. Now, it is something to remember, these ones do bolster. They don't bolster the boss, because this is a gauntlet that you can't get away from, but they do bolster each other. So that is something to watch out for, which is why I actually separated them, because bolstering week cannot be fun at all. The Gloom Squall cast that she did is, that's where you drop the little shield. Everybody gets in, it avoids the knockback, and avoids a lot of damage. The upcoming pull here, again, I'm going to split it up, because this first pack here doesn't bolster anything. The second pack, they do bolster again. Again, not the boss, just themselves. But what you do here is I pull them into the lantern so we can start getting the buff. The Mistweaver was pretty quick on getting that, although he did get some Gargan aggro, which I ended up getting back here. Although one of the Gargans was definitely being a little bit bitchy, but what can you do? He was DPS down by them. Very, very good. There is a spot. So on this next one, it is a lot of casters. So as you see, the Dark Acolytes, I'll pull one in, and then you want to LOS them right behind this wall. But I kind of had to move out, unfortunately, because I didn't time it right with the Gloom Squall. But not that bad. I had Gorfine's Grasp, bring everything into the same spot, and you see this Lantern buff just stack up right here. Oh, one of them was running Mistcaller. Isn't that funny? DPS them down, get the buff, move forward. Really nothing to worry about. Continue on with the Gauntlet as is. She will phase at every 10% of her damage. So 90%, 80%, and 70%. 70% being the last one. And because as a boss phase itself, she goes from 70 to 50 on the platform. At 50%, she's dead. Sometimes if she's casting an ability, it's a little bit lower, but that is what it is. The Gargans will constantly keep you in combat here until this last phase is done. We get her down to 70%. Very, very easy with the 10 stacks of the Lantern buff. Here she kind of, I put down the Gloom Squall shield, but we ended up phasing her beforehand. So this pack here can be a little bit tricky. Sometimes some people think the Chamber Sentinel is the one to worry about, which he is, but you want to CC the Noble Skirmishers, because as you see here, you just see these animated weapons popping up. And if you do not pay attention to those casts, you will start to get a lot of them. And in higher keys, especially 15s, if you have 4, 5, 6 of those things out, they will truck. So you want to make sure that you kill the noble skirmishers. Don't worry about DPSing down the animated weapons. When the skirmisher itself dies, the weapons will go away. So try and CC as many of the skirmishers as you can during those casts. And as you see here, there's an animated weapon. It disappears. Boom, done. This pull here, I'll put down a Death and Decay, get some aggro. Anything that comes to the doors from here. There are some Hunt Masters here, so pay attention to traps. But we've already talked about that enough as it is. Just keep pulling them out. Watch out for traps. Plain and simple. Now, General Call as a last boss. Now, this is a movement-based fight where tank positioning is pretty important. You want to try and keep her near the center. The center is going to be where you're going to be able to save yourself and the others quite a little bit of time and make everything easier. She does that, the Rushing Blade cast, the Piercing Blur, and she's going to pick a couple of targets. Unfortunately, there's not much you can do about that. Now, the little columns that she does, what you want to do is you just want to avoid those. When you're in the center, they're going to shift in which way they summon. You just kind of want to move out of the way, get back into the center. When she casts Gloom Squall, move over, use the Gloom Squall shield that is provided to you. You won't get knocked back. As a DK, though, if you do not, you can Death's Advance. And if you somehow screw up. But again, keeping to the center is the way to go here. There is a stacking bleed that will go in the DPS. So this is really a fight where you want to be responsible as a tank. So this is the Piercing Blur. See it shifted. Just stay out of it. So whichever one's first, I try and just go right next to it. And the moment it goes off, just go right back to where you were. This is a fight to be responsible with your CDs. Because your DPS... Now here, this is a miracle that we actually fully lived this, because we did have the Quaking go off at the same time as the Gloom Squall. Just really bad timing, but I got the Mist Weaver up. As you see here, in a 15, we still have 6 minutes and 30 seconds left in the key, with 3% left to go. We are doing just fine. We had the Brezes available. Get the damage going, but things like that can really go wrong quickly, and it just not be your fault. So do your best to do your best on this fight, and things will go very, very smoothly, because if the healer does not have to worry about you anywhere near as much or at all, then they can worry on the bleeds going out in the DPS and things like that. The bleeds can get filed. Boom, done. That is Sanguine Depths. I hope this guide has been helpful. I know I got a little talky, a little bit rambly. I'm gonna edit out some of the quiet bits. If you have any questions for tanking at all, the Mazarok Community Discord, come by, check it out. Links down below. I stream on Twitch. Again, the link is again still down below in the description below. I hope you guys enjoy this content. I am working on getting the rest of the dungeons out and just having fun. So if you enjoy tanking, if you're excited for 9.2 as much as I am, leave a comment down in the comment box below. I hope you guys are enjoying your day. Thank you very much.